This is my video of the changing of my stock B-King exhaust, which you see here, to a Leo Vince exhaust system. And I'll start by just demonstrating the volume. So I've started by taking off the seats, and now this middle fairing I've already taken off 3 of the 4 snap-ins. All I did was a quick little pop there, and it comes right out. And then just lift up the back end, and that piece slides right out. Next step is to remove these side panels. I've already taken the far side off. It's just 3 pressure pins, so it just pops off with a little bit of effort. You just pull and slide it out. A little bit harder to do with one hand. There we go. So now I've got both side panels off. We unlock the release key. Once again, difficult to do with one hand. And once the release key is, or the release cable is released, that. We'll take this fastback piece off by unscrewing these 2 bolts up here, and then 2 more bolts on the side right here. If you look at the fastback, it just had 2 little posts here that needed to be pulled out after those 4 screws, and then there is a bit of a tail end that you have to slide it above. Now the fastback is removed, we'll remove these plastic screws on the 2 sides, as well as this bolt in the middle to remove this plastic shield. So next, I've pulled the bolt out of this location here and loosened these plastic screws here, which release the clips. This tail end becomes loose, but isn't removed until after. We'll pull these heat shields off the side here. So once the side bolt was removed, it became loose, and I pulled it straight back to get past the exhaust tip, as well as pull this tip out of that hole. Just give you a better look at the inside of the heat shield. There's the mounting holes. There's also a mounting hole at the end here, which lines up with this peg on both sides. So now that you got the back end off, this piece, it's just got 2 tabs at the bottom, which are hard to see from this view, but just lift it up and it comes right out. And there's the tabs that lock into those slots. Okay, next step is to disconnect the power to the lights. Notice the zip tie here holding the cable. Don't cut this. If you just slide it back, pull this little tab forward, it opens right up. There's no need to cut anything there. Once you slip this out through here, we'll be undoing these bolts here on both sides, as well as here at the back, to release this structure. Now the instructions actually say to unbolt, after releasing this wire, to unbolt these screws underneath and release this from the subframe, or not the subframe, but this bracket here. But I'm going to skip that step and see how that goes. So when you're taking this cable apart, don't be fooled by all these little tabs on the side and on the top. There's just a single tab on the inside that gets squeezed upward to release this cable and get it past this notch with the white spot on it. So there's no need to pry in here. It's just this one tab that gets lifted upward. Everything else stays intact. So I've removed these bolts in here on both sides. As you can see, the power connector just slides right out. I'm just going to use the screwdriver that I just dropped and a 10mm to remove these two bolts here. So when you're taking these bolts off, just be well aware that they are Loctited. You may pull a muscle like I did. But I've got these two bolts off, and as I suspected, the instructions to remove this bottom tail didn't make much sense once you have those 4 bolts off and the cable disconnected. There's this peg here that's holding it all together. Just get a good grip. It just slides right off the back. The whole assembly, cable and everything. So this is what you got left. The stock exhaust fully exposed. So now with the exhaust exposed, I'll be removing the bolts holding the exhaust on. So there's one there, one here. Just start with this guy underneath. Once you've got that loosened up, make sure you do support the weight of the exhaust, as those are, along with these ones here, are the bolts holding it on, and it will drop. Okay, so I, along with the instructions that I'm reading, lied. So I've removed these bolts here, which required another nut in there to be held in place, as well as these bolts on the side, both sides. I've also loosened this here, so it's nice and loose there, and everything pretty much holds in its own place. So I'm just going to get a good grip on it and slide it off backwards. And with a quick wiggle, came off pretty easy. So this is what we see underneath now. Pretty wide open. Should probably start it now just to see what it sounds like, but I won't.